Is this a rebound or a head fake? Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Market House. I'm Maggie Lake, and today I'm talking markets with Dale Pinkert, trading coach at TradeGateHub. Hey there, Dale.
Hi, Maggie. This market is very difficult to describe in words, so I thought I'd attempt it in song.
Oh, right at the top. Give it to us.
You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your pips while you're sitting at your station. There'll be time enough for counting when the markets close.
All right. We needed that, Dale. I don't know. I feel like running. It's just like this volatility.
You really do, you really do need to be more of a trader than ever before. And it's so fascinating to me how there were so many things at major support. And I saw them turn the market last night. The reversal began. But the kind of action we had today, I think they really have the shorts right now. I'm one of them. I stuck with the semis. They were on the verge of breaking down yesterday. I could run through some charts. Nvidia was at a major support level. Broadcom had broken down. Palantir was a disaster. Still doesn't look good. The Mag 7 barely held on today, but they're at a breakdown level. And I don't know what sparked it. It almost feels like, I never really believed in it before, the plunge protection team. But, there were tweets from President Trump when he said, stop panic selling week. And I don't know what the catalyst could be that turned the market for it to just open higher and really run today. Besides, you had low RSI readings, but it's kind of coincidental. A picture speaks 1,000 words.
Yeah, and while you pull that up, I'll say, hey, everybody who's joining us live on Substack and YouTube, go ahead and put your questions in, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. It's good to see you all, and I'm sure a lot of you have some opinions about what happened too. And it's interesting you say that, Dale, because I think if it had been, a bounce, then people would have thought, okay, like maybe some people are, bottom fishing, maybe the selling had been overextended or something, but gosh, it was a really powerful move. It felt so one way. It ran people over, and I do think that's got a lot of people kind of scratching their heads.
Not only that, there were no reversal signals. Anyone that knows how to buy a close like this, I want to move all my money to them. And it's not the first time it happened. There was no reversal, unlike what you have at important turning points. They don't just sit at a breakdown, gap higher, unless there's earnings. I don't know. Was there an NFP report today that was bullish? I didn't see much movement in the bonds.
No, we didn't get the payroll report because
here's Mag 7, same thing. They really didn't impress me. I guess it takes more money to move these. Here's Broadcom. You had great earnings, and they still cracked it. But now we're back above the breakdown. But I don't know. We could rally, but I don't know if this is a major low. Palantir still looks pretty sick. Uber finally got to objectives I talked about, I don't know, last year. $74. I don't think a lot of people would be looking for that. Basically, if you don't take in the night sessions, here's NASDAQ. Here was the close. I mean, no major reverse. That's the 4-hour. Here's the close. So you tell me this is a buy signal. I want to take your course. So yeah. I just see something, it's not like this. I mean, this wasn't a great reversal either. But to me, and I'm not just, it's not sour grapes. I'm just saying that there are a lot of markets that are acting like that now. Nat gas, another one. closes great last week and then gaps lower. But in the stock market, I think there is definitely a national interest for it to go higher. And whether it could make a new high or not, S&Ps look like they're just stone's throw away. I mean, another day like this, and we're there. We could be
Mm.
7,100 next week. This is what I would use to tell you there's something wrong. The Dow led it, right? The Dow was the first one. S&P
Yeah.
made new highs. When people buy Dow stocks, there's almost a little bearish tint to it because they want to be in the most liquid, blue chip, right? Blue chips,
Yeah.
conservative, risk averse. I don't know if Russell's going to make a new high. And look how far away NASDAQ is, the higher beta names and the old darlings, the Max 7, so far away from new highs. NASDAQ could, maybe it's going to have juice for a few weeks, but it's a different looking chart than the S&Ps.
So what was interesting today was that we had previously seen the Dow and blue chips, and it felt like a rotation, right? Sort of out of the high flying Mag 7 and large cap tech into more industrial, consumer staples, manufacturing. And you're right, it was a little bit more defensive, maybe some of the areas that were beat up. But that didn't happen today. Everything flew today. Everything was higher. Everything.
Even Bitcoin turned.
Yes.
And I thought they'd be the first to turn.
Yeah.
Because they were the first to head down. But I wanted to, IWM looks like it can make a new high. Maybe, we're just going to make a new high. But I just want to warn people about things that they're probably long that may not make new highs. And I think this is a real interesting analog. Look at this weekly in Micron. Okay, so it was a 10 bagger from the spring of 25, right? And what does it remind you of, this kind of move? Can anyone spell silver?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and
or any meme, pick your meme.
Yeah, and the 9 day, the 9 week is holding it. So look at the kind of the way silver looked before it cracked. Okay, the 9 day and Micron. So, there are certain things that, I think are showing cracks, but, you can't fight the momentum. S&Ps look like they can make new highs. We'll see if the semis can. I think it's going to be interesting with things like Micron. But right now, you could say, well, the semis, they came back from, see how they turned them at an important level?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right there at the breakdown. Well, right now we're right around 61.8 back. So it's a coin toss. I held my puts, but Nvidia looks like it could still try and squeeze people. One thing I do know, under the lows of this week and everything that held, Thursday's price low across the board is critical for the bull case to continue.
Yeah, this is what made today interesting, right? Because but yesterday people were worried, right? So not only was there price action, but there were fundamental conversations, right?
Bless you.
Go somewhere else. So you might notice I'm remote. I am on a school trip with my son, who just banged into the room like a bull. Maybe he's the bull case and is now sneezing. So we've asked him to relocate unless he would like to join the live feed. But so you had that fundamental, the negative price action combined with some fundamentals. Is AI going to wipe out sectors, right? All of these sort of conversations that were happening. And then today you saw everything reverse. So I think Whitebeard is summing up the question that Whitebearded rather. That everyone is asking will we see follow through on Monday? What are you going to be looking for?
I'll be reacting. I'll be reacting instead of predicting the opening. Yeah. But normally what you get, a trading pattern that Whitebeard could start to notice is when you have a strong close on a Friday, you usually get follow through on Monday, and then there's a probability for that move to end. They call it turnaround Tuesday. Sometimes it happens on Wednesday, but when you have same with week closes, normally you get downside follow through on Monday. So we should have follow through early next week.
What do you early next week? But then the test will come. So maybe, don't base a decision or anything on Monday. Maybe we're going to get a truer sense as we get through the week. So
well, I have a couple of new things that interest me. I'll just, I'll hold my semi puts. They're out to May. My risk is defined. But there are some new things that have developed this week.
Oh, tell us.
That are kind of embryonic. So I would say most people know that I've been negative silver for a while. I'm looking to buy it. So if I get one more break in silver, and a lot of people know this technique, it's I'll be looking for a third drive to a bottom in silver. Here's drive 1. We had a confirmed low. Here's drive 2. We diverged. So if we trade $60, and who knows, it could turn out to be a long-term buy, but I'll take it a step at a time. If we get a break here in the next couple of weeks for one more low, and the RSI stays above 30, I'm long. A trader friend of mine said that the Shanghai Metal Exchange is closed for Chinese holiday, I think the 11th. There's a lot of things happening in February. But I would look to be a buyer in silver, and then, look for, a rally back to 90 or 100.
So it's interesting. Stamina is probably making a note of that, because they said in the era of hyper change, I had to rebuy silver. So a couple folks with that idea, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So, and gold held an important line too from last night. See, now here's the difference. Remember the stock charts that I showed you that just bottomed on just a negative candle? Here's reversal action. Okay, this is how markets turn when it's real, instead of someone picking up the phone and saying, buy this market. We need to support this market here. And that's what it felt like to me today.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any ideas? We have a lot of smart people out there.
Yeah, put in there if you agree with that, or what you're seeing. We did in the meantime, and this is sort of related to that. What turned, and then the few that didn't were notable, and Amazon was one, right? I think I don't know. I didn't check the very end of the close, but it was one of the few that were not participating in this today.
Yeah, and Google, everyone loved it, and Google got clocked pretty good with great earnings. Look at Google. I was telling people, buy the rumor, sell the fact on earnings. I think we peaked before earnings. Google doesn't look good. So, I think really you can't treat the market as a market. Even in the indexes, there's all kinds of bifurcation. And if you trade individual stocks, you can't just say, well, the S&Ps look good, so I'm just going to buy everything. You still have to be selective.
So let's look at bonds. Tell me what you're seeing there, because somebody was mentioning, maybe everybody came to the conclusion that Warsh isn't as hawkish as everyone thought. People have been moving around in terms of whether we get another rate cut or not. As I mentioned, we're not getting another break in the data because the very brief government shutdown we had. But what are you seeing in bonds? I mean, did that and probably the
they
dollar
really got a nice lift yesterday, and we've been holding the support level. They look good. And what this part of the curve, even, we've been to 431 a few times and failed. So it looks to me like we're going to have lower yields. That's why I'm really going to be paying attention to the Japanese yen. Someone last week asked me where I was going to short the yen, And I said, well, you could look at fib levels. Well, it got through 50%. It's through 61.8, and we have the elections on, I think, the 8th. So it's Sunday. So this could be an interesting week where we either fail at 78.6 or, then we'll get 60. But because I'm more friendly towards yields, and I think the bonds are going to rally, and I think that's another clue about money being nervous that they're buying bonds. Okay, normally you have this kind of rally. Today, the bonds would have given up everything they gained yesterday, and they did not. So the yen could be a big trade setting up here into the election. I'm looking to fade this rally. It's either here or we'll be looking at 160. Well, I'd rather react to the election than try and predict and place a bet in front of the election. And I'm like that with most major news events. Someone once came up to me and said or texted me and said, Dale, I bought the euro before the NFP and it came in weak and the euro rallied 100 pips. And I said, good guess. Okay, because that's all it is. It's a roulette bet. But you reacting to what a market does after a news event, what levels are being achieved, was it bullish news and it begins to fade. Once the dust settles is a better time to take a position in the market instead of, basically playing betting red or black.
Yeah, no, it's so worth sort of reminding everyone of that, because I feel like, we've talked about this before, Dale. There's like a tendency to try to want to take action, right? Like you have this big rebounds. Everybody's trying to figure out, what does it mean? Should I reposition? Should I get ready for follow through? Should I, and I, the truth is, there's not a lot of transparency. It's very opaque right now what's going on. So trying to react might be the better way to go. Talk to me a little bit about crypto. By the way, you mentioned to us right before we went on that you have a shirt on. Your shirt is representing today, I guess.
Yeah, it says hope, and it's Bitcoin on it. I think there's a reason for it. And last week I was talking, I thought we were going to bottom maybe around 67. So it went deeper than I thought it would go. But today's action doesn't completely reverse all the week's losses, but pretty powerful reversal. I went with Ethereum because it had a better RSI structure on some of the shorter term RSIs, and it's back over the throwover. But I think, think about it. Bitcoin's come down from 120 to 60. And look, and you know what? A 60K and silver $60. I think the 60s, and I know people talking in market analogies like we're in the 60s.
Yeah.
But, something I just thought of today.
Yeah.
Bitcoin being important at 60 and silver being important at 60. Only there's a few digits more on Bitcoin.
Yes.
But why can't we rally back to 80, 90,000 from here?
Does it feel like 65 is meaningful in any way in terms of support? Because as I was watching it yesterday, it was dropping so quickly. I thought, wow.
Well, for 65 it got through.
Yeah.
So 65. Some people were looking. Look, I was saying, really for months, I've been saying when we were doing this, I don't think we bottomed. So here's just a little more evidence about confirmed lows can save you a lot of grief. So because markets rarely bottom when momentum and price are confirmed, and we had a confirmed low on Bitcoin, so I knew whatever it wanted to do, correct, that this low wasn't going to hold. And I knew I had a high conviction rate that Bitcoin was going to make a new low. And, I figured we'd trade 70, 68. But, rubber bands can stretch further than we think. And in fact, in the room last night, there was another 3-drive formation that I pointed people's eye out. I don't know if you guys could see it, but I was working in the afternoon and I saw this little 3-drive, and I said 1800 should be important for Ethereum. It went to 1740, but now it's back above the overthrow line. So, pretty important call. So here's
absolutely. And, again, we've got to see how things settle out because it was interesting to see everything moving higher today. But for those of you who've had a chance to watch the interview I had with Luke Groman, he was thinking, and he refers to Bitcoin as the last functioning fire alarm. And it was dropping so rapidly yesterday. We also think of it sometimes as a liquidity measure, right? A response to liquidity. So to your point, Dale, whether it was direct intervention or whether it was some sort of, increase in liquidity that we will see once we get some data in and folks can track those. I'm sure Michael Howell's looking at all of that right now.
I don't think this is a final low.
Yeah, well, this is it. Like, is it just
because of this? So I just showed you what happened after the confirmed low we had here. But you can have short squeezes off confirmed lows. When you had, I think, bullish percent, there was only the greedometer on Bitcoin was down to, I think, 14% bulls. So, we were at this level. I remember when I brought it up last week that we could have a bottom in Bitcoin. Even you reacted like, oh, well, we could certainly use that. So, people were discouraged and desperate. So that's when lows come in. So we could squeeze it. That's what it feels like. There's going to be short squeezes everywhere.
And so so talk about that, a short squeeze versus something that feels like a sort of more substantial rebound means that we're going to see once that is worked out, you're going to see, more downside momentum moving forward.
Yeah, but maybe the S&Ps, even if they make new highs, they're not going to confirm. So, the markets to me right now are a coin toss. The trades I'm looking at are for next week, because there are times it's more intelligent to say, I don't know. Because when I look at this, here's the semiconductor index. Okay. It held support. It's 61.8 back right here. And it could either just blow off to new highs or not have follow through and break down. But me right now, it's a coin toss. There's no reason for me to take action either way, because the intelligent thing is to say, I don't know. So if I don't know, I don't trade. And I'm not saying I know, but at least I have reasons for assuming risk. There are certain reasons. For example, I find 3-drive formations pretty reliable. Silver's pretty washed out. It's beginning to diverge on, a 4-hour time frame. So there are reasons for me to do something and do something actionable down here. There's a reason for me to do something in the yen next week with the elections, because I think we're in a topping process, whether it makes a new high or not. I think we're in a topping process. And then even here today, around the close, someone was asking me about cannabis today, and and I said they were asking about MSOS, and I like this one here. And it's been, I think someone brought it up in a press conference with Trump, but I think it's been washed out enough. At the end of the year, I said, hold off in case there's tax selling. And for example, this one hasn't been able to fill the gap. This one's more speculative. So I like the weekly signal on this. See, this is a low reversal candle.
Yeah.
So I'm long here because, first of all, talking about confirmations, this is a confirmed high, which means there is a probability that this was not the high because it confirmed up here. And then it may have only been the second drive, and maybe we're going to, $8. Same thing here, confirmed high, and we could go up to $8 here. And I like the risk reward. You could risk $1 to make 4 or 5. So there were reasons for me to do it, and it was a weekly signal. After, I'm sure everyone that caught this on the announcement, they've been able to be liquidated out by now. So I'm taking a shot here.
Interesting. I like that. I like the opportunistic look. You got to find something. But I really just want to underscore.
It's my hedge. It's my hedge. It's my long hedge against my put positions in semis. So if everything keeps going, at least I'm long something.
Exactly.
And I am looking to get long silver down there if it gives me an opportunity to do so.
There you go. But I like your reasoning around that. If I don't know, I don't trade. And so you have things that make sense to you, fit your framework, fit the way you operate, and so that you're able to go for those two longs. But if you don't, then don't. By the way, if I don't know, I don't invest is also not a bad way to think about things. We were just talking about, kind of understanding what you're buying and having some thought process behind it as important. Doug pointed out something very interesting because you talked about ags last time. I don't know how you're thinking about that now.
Yeah,
but the
beans took off.
The high in ag was 121, he says, and Bitcoin was 126. Highs that match pretty close.
Oh, okay. Well, just update the ags. The wheat still has not broken out. But look at what the beans, here's the wheat. It's failed a couple of times against this trend last week and again here. So I don't know, maybe it's going to work lower. But the beans were the star. You had a pretty good.
They had that announcement that indication from Trump that perhaps the U.S. and China had come to some sort of agreement on soybeans, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, they it was a buy the rumor, sell the fact, because certainly came off on that. I still favor this long-term formation. I like them both, but here's the weekly. We're knocking on the door of an important breakout. So still like it. Sometimes you have to be patient. And this is one where when you think about it, even if you risk under the lows in wheat, that's 509 from where we are now, that's 30 cents. And you know what? You get 30 cent swings in silver every 60 seconds.
These days, that's for sure.
Well, why not trade something lower beta? Some of these markets are not tradable for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they're trying to, play in a market where unless you could risk, 5-10 grand per pop, you can reduce your leverage, but, look for lower risk, lower beta situations. And, I'm not talking about physical, but for most people, silver and gold right now are just too wild for their pockets aren't deep enough to trade that. In my opinion.
And I think that's fair. And I think that we have been cautioning folks about leverage. Be really careful in this kind of look at what happened today. You got to be really careful with leverage. Got somebody asking about copper. Dr. Copper.
Okay. So I was wrong about this. I didn't expect this spike that we had when I was bearish. We had this spike. And just like everything else, copper looks like it could blow again. I wouldn't be short copper, probably be long, looking for new lows, but you sure know where to keep your stops. If you're bullish copper, you don't want to be long under 550. Okay, so this too, maybe the viewer is trading the stocks. I don't know if they're trading the futures, but copper as well. You could tell the character of the market change because look at the average trading range here before it got wild. This is when it was a good time to buy copper, just like I'm showing you wheat, where you have lower beta, you could enter in without risking half of your house. And now look at the ranges, average trading range that you have here. Again, it's moved to reduce your large margin dramatically, and you need deep pockets, and the volatility is going to pick off your stops if you're trying to trade with tight stops. You're just meat for the algos and forex stop hunter.
And you, I like that you included yourself because it's true. Watch out for this guy.
Oh, Maggie,
by the way,
a lot of trading educators like this metaphor. They go, why give someone a fish if you could teach them to fish? And I teach people how to navigate shark-infested waters. We're not fishing on a lake. Okay, there's barracudas, there's sharks. You have to be aware of everything. It's dangerous. This can be a dangerous thing. So, it's not something that ARP recommends retirees do.
Yeah. I think that's
very away.
I think that's very true, especially in this environment. By the way, this is sort of hilarious, but Doug said he was talking about AG for silver, not ag. But I'm so glad I misunderstood you, Doug, because we got a great rundown from Dale for
the ags.
Yes. For the ags, yeah, but yes. So silver's high and Bitcoin's high, pretty close and pretty closely match up. We're almost. So thanks for that, Doug. That misunderstanding led to some great. We're almost out of time. Just want to ask you one last thing, and that is oil, because you had been watching this closely. You were looking for it to move up when it was in the 50s. It has, and it's had some up and downs, but it's kind of staying above that 60, certainly that $60 a barrel level pretty consistently now. And, not as big of a move today as some of these other markets, but it's at 63. It's been hovering right around there now.
Yeah, it's a tougher trade than it was here, even on this pullback, and then even on this pullback. So I don't know. I mean, everything's kind of dependent upon whether there's a deal or not. I guess I would say that if it looks like there's hope of a deal and they sell it off, I'm still going to give crude the benefit of the doubt and be a buyer on breaks to about, if I get a pullback, something like an A, B, C down here, I'd buy pullbacks and be wrong under 58.
Fantastic. So to sum it up, if I understand what you were talking about earlier, Adele, or where you stand on this, you are sidelined until you get a better sense of what's happening with the big moves we saw today. You're not willing to predict whether it's a short-term rebound or a longer-term rebound, but you're skeptical. But
I have positions. I'm long oil. So when you're asking me about this, I'm talking about new positions. But I wouldn't tell anyone to come in here on a coin toss and just get long here. There were other opportunities all the way up.
Yeah.
And now if you're asking about it.
Well, what about stocks? What about that big rally we saw in stocks and Bitcoin and those sort of?
Well, I bought, my big stock holding is cannabis, and I'm still short and probably wrong on the semis if we're going to get that kind of short squeeze.
Yeah, but you're watching for it.
And I'm looking to short the yen, and I'm still long dollar. So here's, we didn't cover the dollar. Let's do it quickly. All right, so I think the dollar has to rally up here for me to get my buy in silver at a new low. So what I would do in the dollar is wherever it gets to first. At 98.80, I'm a seller, and a pullback to 96.20, this old low, I'm a buyer. So I'm a seller here, and I'm a buyer down here. And I'm long right now. So I'll either add to longs here or I'll book some longs up here. And that's what I'm doing with the dollar. Because the 98.80 was big. And we still had a positive week in the dollar. Despite everything, it was still higher. And it's fighting this big breakdown that it had on the long-term trend line. And I'm thinking we get back to here before we get a correction. But that's where I'm a seller. The 98.80 level was really the big test right here before we had the waterfall decline. So I was thinking maybe we get here first.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Dale, thanks for giving us a peek at your cards. We started out with the song, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. So appreciate you giving us a little look at the hand you're holding.
And I always don't know. I don't know. I fold them when I should hold them. Sometimes I hold them when I should fold them. So, be gentle with yourself. Look, the only thing you could control is the risk you're taking every time you take a position. Predetermine the risk, because the difference between pros and amateurs are pros know how to lose. So they have money left to be right with. You can't trade an empty account.
So true. So true. Such good wisdom to send everybody off for the week. Well, at least if it was a crazy end to the week, it was like a big rally instead of a big sell-off. So,
good for you.
It depends on your right. Of course, it depends on your position.
All I want to know is who was buying today.
Yes, we all want to know that.
We all want to know.
I think we all share your suspicions. We've got the Olympics on.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic for the sort of human spirit. There are always good stories coming out of that. I find them uplifting. We've got
How about the Super Bowl?
Super Bowl on in the U.S.?
So Super Bowl indicator. So a bear market means the Pats win, and the bull market means a continuation melt up. That it'll be the Seahawks.
Well, I think the Seahawks are heavily favored now.
Yeah, well, so is the bull market.
Well, okay, we're going to be really nervous if the Pats win. Dr. Divergent says a Seahawks are a lock. Okay, we're going to take that.
Guys. And remember, keep your hope. Hope is the oxygen in our lives and the carbon dioxide in our trading.
I also have quoted this before from Nick Cave, but hope is the warrior emotion, people. We got to hang on to it.
All right, Maggie.
All right, Dale. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. And we'll see you again next week. Take care and good luck out there.
See you in the room.
All right.
Bye, Maggie.